Alrighty. Thank you for starting the recording, Amelia.
You bet.
Okay, it is 3:01. I am going to get started. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Jody Filardo, and I'm the Community Development Director. With me today, I have Amelia McCulley, our Deputy Director of Community Development. I have Charles Rapp, our incoming Community Development, well, actually, he's the new Community Development Director for Operations. We have Betty Slow, who is our Commercial Plans Reviewer, on the call. We have Keith Bradshaw, who is right now acting as our Manager for Community Development Customer Services. We have Dwayne Vaya, who is our Chief Inspector. Unfortunately, Michael Dellinger, who is our building official and was supposed to join us today, has had a bit of an accident, and so he cannot join us, sadly. But I have a very valiant and effective team who's on the call, so we are hoping to be able to answer all your questions. I've got about 30 minutes worth of slides if I talk very quickly. And what I'd like to do is pop through those with you, if you can all bear with me, and if you're comfortable with that approach and can just take some notes about questions you might have. At the end, I hope we'll have 20 to 30 minutes where we can ask questions and we can clarify anything you might have questions about. So I see that we've got many people on this call besides my own community development team. If it's all right with you, let me just call you out so that everybody kind of knows everybody on the call. And Becky, since you were the first intrepid one to turn your screen on, you get to go first and just say like what your name is, what your position is, and who you represent.
Sure. I'm Becky Crow, and I'm with Gibson Homes, Wendell W. Gibson Incorporated.
Super, thank you. Tina Meadows.
Yes, Tina Meadows, Craig Builders.
Thank you. The Smith and Robertson team.
Hi there. I'm Eric Robertson. I'm a project manager. This is Jim Hilton over here, architect, and Adam Galelli, an estimator. I'm also the president of the Home Builders Association. And on behalf of all of us, thank you, community development staff, for educating us builders.
Oh, thank you very much, Eric. Porter. Porter, you want to introduce yourself real quick? Porter Smith. Oh. Okay, moving on to the Evergreen team. Okay. Oh, I saw a raised hand on the Evergreen team. You're mute. You appear to be muted to me. Okay. Moving on. Nicole Guernsey.
Peter Johnson Builders.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. Let's see. Morgan Wrights.
Hey, this is Morgan. I'm with Peter Johnson Builders as well.
Thank you. I note that Evergreen doesn't have a mic, so that'll be hard to introduce yourself. Sorry, y'all. Okay, Benjamin with Bramante Homes.
Yes, I'm Benjamin with Bramante Homes, the production manager.
Thank you, Benjamin. All right, David Nelson.
Hi, yes, I'm David Nelson.
I'm sorry, David. We couldn't hear you very well, but I hope you can hear us.
Yes, I can.
Super. Okay, that was better, actually. Brad Wood.
Yes, Brad Wood, Teal Construction, project manager and estimator.
Super, thank you. And Sonia Carrick.
All right.
Sonia? Okay, well, she may be having some trouble getting through as well. So thank you all for being on the call today. This is our very first training opportunity So you all are our guinea pigs, and I appreciate your fortitude and willingness to work with us to hear about complete residential permit applications. We are recording this meeting. It's our hope that if this turns out well, we will provide the recording to the Blue Ridge Home Builders Association for use on y'all's website, and we will post it on our own website just so everyone knows. What we're going to talk about a little bit today is I'm going to show you a little bit about who the heck is in community development. So when you get calls from some of us, you'll know who we are. Then we're going to give a bit of an overview of what we're doing today. I'm going to talk to you about how the heck to find the residential permit application checklist. And then we're going to talk through some of the details of what is required, summarize at the end, and then answer any questions you might have. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see we've got the Community Development Department leadership team with some of our administrative team over here on the left. Michael Dellinger is the building division head, and he is also our chief building official. I am echoing to myself. Am I echoing to y'all? If y'all could maybe turn off mics, that might help a little bit. Thank you. So in Michael's organization, he has the intake team, and Keith Bradshaw is serving as the head of the intake team right now. We have plans reviewers, and Betty is with us on this call. And we have the chief of inspections, and that is Dwayne Vaya. He's also on the call today. In addition, our zoning team participates in processing permits we receive from y'all, and Jeff Baker is the contact for that. And our engineering team also works with evaluating our residential permit applications, and Jeff Elsey is the guy that would do that. So just wanted to kind of set this whole conversation in context. The mission of our county is to enhance the well-being and quality of life for the community through the provision of the highest level of public service consistent with the prudent use of funds. And the Community Development Department is really in charge of implementing the mission of the county. So in order to do that, we've got 3 key goals that are underway for our fiscal year 22. And our fiscal year starts on July 1, ends on June 30th, as I'm sure you all know. But the project we're talking about today is really invest in capacity. And what that really involves is enhancing our technology, our public outreach, and our processes to give staff more capacity to be able to push through more permits faster. So we're also working on zoning modernization, and you will see some things come forward to you over time as we are tightening up, cleaning up, and fixing up our ordinance. We have several things in work in the zoning modernization world, and really that's hoping to improve our 40-year-old zoning code. So as time goes by, you'll see some things coming forward to you and our whole community on that. And as several of you know, we also have the comprehensive plan update underway. So key to knowing what we are expecting on residential permit applications is finding the checklist. So we thought we would share with you the actual steps you need to take to find this checklist. So first you have to go to our website, and then you choose apply for, then you choose building permit, and then you choose residential permit application checklist. And just, I should say, so you all don't have to take copious notes, I will be providing this PowerPoint to everyone as well. Actually, I'll probably provide it to Jenny Tapscott. And if you need this particular PowerPoint presentation and you don't receive it from Jenny, or you just want it directly from me, please send me an email requesting it, and that will go a long way. I'll just forward it right out to you. So if you click here, there, and then you click on the residential permit application checklist, what you will then see is this kind of a look-see. So here is our browser bar. Here's the apply for button. Then you would choose building permit, and then you would choose residential permit application checklist. And then when you get there, you'll see something that you've never seen before, and that is this. This is the residential permit application checklist. Now, what we're going to do today is talk through the information included in the residential application checklist. We've bundled it into some steps, but I'm not going to expect for you to be able to read this very small print. I just wanted to show you what it looks like so you can kind of get the gist of it so that you know you've gotten to the right place in the web. So we have requirements in kind of 4 bundles, if you will. We've got the plat and site plan requirements. And so for the plat, if you're submitting this by paper, we want 2 paper copies of each. Relative to the site plan, we want you to include a complete building location and key property features. And all of that is stipulated in the residential permit application checklist. One thing that we have noticed about what we do receive from many applicants is that we are not receiving right now construction drawings. We have been receiving floor plans, and what happens is if the floor plans, well, the floor plans don't have all these other things with them. And so then our intake team is reaching out to people who submit incomplete applications and asking for more information. So what we are looking for in terms of construction drawings, of course, are things that I know y'all are submitting in other jurisdictions as well. So it's standard stuff for you all who have been in the building business a long time, but foundation plan information, floor plans for every floor, floor framing with the sizing of the timbers and the materials you're using, roof framing with materials and with point loads specified, typical wall sections from the ground all the way up to and including the roof, and of course elevations of all 4 sides. We also need a completed application. So we need all the fields complete, and if you find a field on the application that does not pertain to you, we'd appreciate you putting NA on that so that we know it's not applicable to your job and that we can just know that you've taken a look at that and we can move on from there. We also need a detailed description, please, for your job. And we need all applicant, contractor, and owner contact information. One thing that has changed over the last couple years is that now, in lieu of only interacting with the contractor or the applicant or the owner, we are trying to communicate at one time the information with all 3 of these people. If you are all of those people, then of course we'll just communicate with you. But we would appreciate if you are an owner who is also working as their own GC that you so indicate on our application form. We are trying to do this because we do receive a fair number of owner phone calls to us asking for the status of their particular permit. They may not be the applicant. And so when we have owner information, we are sending emails out to the owners at the same time as we notify the contractor and or applicant, so that you don't have to keep chasing this information if we've already sent it to you. So please do provide the email address for your owners, and that will enable us to be able to reach out to them and notify them and communicate with them when we are communicating with you as well. Let me move on down here a little bit real quick. then moving on to this others category, my favorite. So well and septic or water and sewer information or any combination of all of those things. As the Blue Ridge Home Builders key intrepid people who came to the first Blue Ridge Home Builders Association meeting between the county and the association, we were asked to not require that at the front end of an application submission, and we have changed that policy, as you all may be aware, and as we've had posted on our website for a while since our last meeting and the change in policy. We still require that information before we will issue the building permit. However, we are kind of letting you all submit and then waiting for that to come at the end. Groundwater tests, we're going to talk a little bit about that, a little further about that in a moment. Of course, the address to the property, as you all know, if you are on a vacant property that is not part of a subdivision, you may or may not have an address to that property. We ask that you give us directions to that property besides the lot block number to the property so that we can make sure we are getting to your property to do any inspections before your address has been issued. Then there are all the engineering documents that have to do with erosion and sediment control, the water protection ordinance buffers, and various other things. We'll go through that in more detail as well. Pay your fees. Make sure that you are licensed and that you have active business licenses. And if you are building on a Scottsville property, we need to get Scottsville zoning approval, and that is provided by Max Lawless, who is their town manager, or town administrator actually at the moment. Okay. So we've got lots more detail we can talk through on all of these things if you have further questions as we go along, but I'm going to transition into the private well groundwater testing business. So as you know, unfortunately, in Albemarle County, we do have some identified leaking underground storage tanks. And in order to make sure that your well site is not within that particular area, and or you are taking steps to mitigate that, we ask you to determine before you submit whether or not this property and your potential well location is in what we call a BTEX area, but it's this brown area as noted on the map on the right-hand side of the screen. So to find that, and this is all located in the residential application permit checklist, access the GIS web through albemarle.org, enter your search criteria, which will be either your house number and street name if you happen to have an address already, your owner name and or parcel ID, which I cut off a little bit, but we've got the long parcel ID or the short parcel ID, the format of which is in the checklist. Then you get a screen that looks like this. Choose Maps, click on the address and the risks hazards checkbox, push the refresh map button, and it will result in something that looks like this if you happen to be in what we call this BTEX area. So for example, if you were trying to build on this particular parcel that my cursor's over right now, you would need to provide us additional reporting information, including your water testing for BTEX minerals, metals, heavy metals. So that is kind of where we are right now with all of the ins and outs. I think what I'd like to do is open this to questions, and if you have specific questions about the details on things that are related to all of the elements in here, I have a lot more detail with me, but I thought we'd just zip through this to start with, and then we could go through each of the elements of this if you would like that information. So with that now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for the moment, And if you have any questions, please let me know. And I see we may have some questions in the chat. So let me stop sharing and I will open the chat to see what's going on. Okay, these look like all the messages from people moving in and out, which is great. So at this time, are there any questions that you all have that we can answer? Betty Slow, who is and actually Michael Dellinger did join us after all. Michael, thank you very much for joining us. Our building official is on the call. So are there questions?
I have a question, Jody.
Yes, Eric.
What's the best way to find out the building permit number after you submit the application?
Very good question. If we have email addresses for everybody, we are supposed to send you an email that says your permit has been put in the system and this is the permit number. Yeah, I can see a bunch of nodding heads no. Well, that is a practice that we are going to be working on re-implementing so that you will know the answer to that question. In addition, we do have, we have a way to find your building permit once you know your number. And we have a way, I believe, let me go pull it up in County View right quick, Eric, to see if I can demo that for you. Or Michael or Betty, if you have any ideas on that too while we're on this call. Give me just a second. So Eric, let me share my screen again, and I can kind of show you how to get there. So I am in our website. Let me back up a little. So I went from our www.albemarle.org, chose government, went to apply for, and then I wound up at this screen, chose building, and came up onto this screen. We've got these accordion buttons down here. Checking on your application status is the one you would choose, and you would select County View. Then what happens, you come to this welcome screen, which actually takes you into County View Web. I understand that from a phone, you need to use Mozilla Firefox, I think, to be able to get this to work. From a desktop or a laptop, this should work fine from any browser. I'm in Edge at the moment, but you can view that through your parcel ID information. And you can enter your property information there. So this is the screen you need to get to.
And once you enter the property information with your parcel ID, it will tell you the building permit number. Is that correct?
It should. We've got parcel. Hang on, we've got parcel activity here. Do one of you have a parcel number you can give me? A TMP number? Or let's see, I can get it open.
Not on me.
Me, do I get a random one if you really want one?
Yeah. Let's go find one. So if you know an address of a property on which you're building, do you guys know? Do you have one of those?
Let's see. 494.
Eric?
49. Try 4949 Wesley Chapel Road.
Okay. All right, so does that look familiar to you? Owned
Yep.
by Mr. Tempest, okay.
Yeah.
All righty. So your TMP is 01600-00-00-010A5. So go back into the building permit, checking on your application status, clicking on county view, view property information, and your TMP would be 01600-00-000-010A5. Okay. Oh, Lord. Oh, let's see. So it looks like right now I clicked on parcel activities to the right, and it appears that you've got 3 building permits underway. You've got one in the system that is 20B 2021 0877, and it looks like it's a single family build.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Hopefully that was helpful for everyone else too.
Thank you for asking the question. All right. I'll stop sharing my screen then, so y'all can see each other. Betty.
If you go into the GIS system and on the right side of the screen where it lists the tax map parcel number, if you triple click that with your left thing, it will copy it and then you can paste it, but you've got to get rid of the dashes.
So let me share my screen again. This, and what you're saying, if I go over here to the right side and I triple click this?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I have to highlight the whole thing first, probably, right?
Triple click it. Just triple click it.
Okay.
And then copy.
All right, and then you can just paste it up here, but then you get rid of the dashes.
Correct.
Lovely. Eric, I'm really glad you asked that question because I learned something new on this.
Jody, on the top of that screen there, you can also search by the ad. If you do that pull down menu, there's multiple options there. You can search by address. You can search by a variety of things if you don't have that tax map number.
Thank you, Charles.
Owner's name, everything. Yeah.
Super. Thank you. Okie dokie. Thank you, Eric. That was a bonus question. All right, Betty, do you have another thing to share? Because okay, your hand is up. Let's see. Any other questions from the team? Would it be helpful if we went back through all of the details that are in the residential permit application checklist so that you all can ask specific questions about it? One of the things that's been very interesting in this whole process, trying to get ready for y'all today, is that we actually learned that across our divisions, we were having to come to consensus on some of these things that amongst ourselves, we needed clarity. So I really appreciate the opportunity to share this with you all because it's helped us as well. So let me go to the newest checklist. We had some late breaking information this morning with some slight updates to the engineering documentation required. So I would like to share those with you at this time. Let me get rid of that. This up here. And I am going to try to share this with you all so that you can follow along. On the residential permit application checklist, we've got a lot more specificity in this checklist than we've ever had before. On the site plan, this is some of the information that we have been talking to a subgroup of the Blue Ridge Home Builders Association about. And Eric, some of this may look familiar to you because you've been in on some of the permit plan conversations versus a surveyor's worksheet conversation. And I know we're going to talk with y'all more about that on Monday the 13th. But we've got on the site plan, we would really love to see and need to see the building location, the proposed building location, including eaves and overhangs, property lines and distances from those property lines, setbacks, easements, and well location and septic drain field, if any. On our two sets, if you're giving us paper construction drawings, one set obviously if you're submitting them digitally, on the foundation plan, please show the dimensions of the foundation, wall thickness and type, footing width and thickness, pier locations and sizes, and backfill height. On the floor plans, I'd mentioned already that we want floor plans for every floor, and please label the rooms and include your door and window sizes, and please include your kitchen and bathroom layout so we can tell where your rough-in plumbing is going to go. Floor framing plan, including decks. Please show size and spacing of floor joists, including beam sizes and post locations. We'd like you to show us the species and grades of lumber. And if you're using manufactured trusses, don't forget your shop drawings must be on the job site at the time of inspection. But depending on the complexity of the project, our plans reviewer may require truss calculations and point loads, especially if you have a really complicated floor. Same on the roof prior to permit issuance. And I know several of you have been in conversations with either Betty or Alicia on this. Please also show all your stair details, including rise and run, and your guardrail and handrail details. Pretty much the same on your roofing, except with this, please identify what roofing material you're going to use and show the rise and run of the roof, the sheeting, and size and material. For your wall sections, or a wall section, this is an area where in particular people seem to forget this frequently. A typical wall section indicate the size and spacing length of your studs. And for any wall openings greater than 4 feet, please show your header sizes. And of course, include all your insulation and building finish information and all your material information from footer to roof covering, including your roof covering. And then we already talked about the elevations. On the application, we'd already mentioned this, please fill it out completely. And that's enough on that. For the well and septic construction permit or the ACSA approval, as we'd mentioned, effective October 5th, we said that that could come at the end, but it will hold up your permit if we don't have it in time. And one thing I did not mention in the other list is the VDOT private entrance permit approval. That must be submitted along with your building permit when a new entrance is being created to access the property from a state-maintained roadway. And we've provided the VDOT residency office information for you just in case you don't have it. We've already talked about the BTEX information. We've talked about the address information. And I'd like to just walk through the engineering documentation real quick. This honestly has been confusing to several of us because we've got a lot of if, thens, and elses in all of these things. So let me walk through this bullet by bullet if you would humor me. If the land disturbance is less than 10,000 square feet and the property is not within a common plan of development or a subdivision, engineering documentation is not required. So this is the get out of engineering documentation free card. If the land disturbance area is within a common plan of development and is less than an acre or 43,560 square feet, we'll want to see the following. The erosion and sediment control agreement, which is different than the plan, just to be clear. Stormwater management agreement, stormwater pollution prevention plan for single family, critical resources plan, a mitigation plan if there are stream buffers, for example, a driveway crossing a stream, and then a DEQ construction general permit for single family homes. If the land disturbance area is equal to or greater than 10,000 square feet and less than an acre and is not within a common plan of development, you only have to complete a few things. The erosion and sediment control agreement, the critical resources plan, a mitigation plan only if you have stream buffer impacts, and then a DEQ construction general permit for single family once again. Now, if the land disturbance is equal to or greater than an acre, please submit the following: a copy of the land disturbance permit and a copy of the stamped and approved erosion and sediment control plan. That presumes you've already been in touch with engineering to get that plan done in advance of your application for your building permit. So I just wanted to point that out. And we need all of these documents to accompany your application at time of submittal. Then, of course, the fees that we'll be happy to tell you what those are, of course. And then don't forget, everyone needs to be maintaining an Albemarle County business license if it applies to you. And I presume that all builders on this call and certainly developers would be needing to maintain a business license for us. And don't forget, you have to have licensed contractors as well. And for those who are building in Scottsville, please contact Matt Lawless so he can provide you a zoning approval for whatever it is you're wanting to do. And then below all of this on the next page, we have the information on the groundwater testing results that we need to see and the information that I showed you before on the slide. But the other thing we have in the actual checklist is a link to the private groundwater regulations so you can see what those are. And it also talks about being included if you are needing to submit this, you will present a report containing the test results that will be required for everybody who's going to be serving or whose home or residence is going to be served by a private groundwater well. All righty. Well, that is probably more detail than you all ever wanted to know about residential permit applications. Are there any other questions that all of my wanderings through all the elements of a residential permit application may have raised, either from our guests or from my own team?
I have one more question, Jody.
Yes, Eric.
Where is the line drawn between an unfinished space and a finished space? Does it have to do with the conditioning of that space? For example, a conditioned storage room?
Let me turn to either Betty or Michael for an answer on that. Miss Betty, because I can see you, I'm going to ask you for help on that.
Can you be more specific? I mean, are you talking about an unfinished room in a house?
Yeah, exactly. So when filling out the building permit application and we're calculating the square footages of finished areas, if there is a storage room that has drywall in it and is heating and air, is that considered finished space?
I would consider it finished.
It's the heat and air to the space that causes it to be considered finished, right?
Yeah.
Dwayne and Betty, I'm seeing both of you nod.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if it was not, sorry, just so I can, if it did not have drywall and it was in a, you know, a basement, but it was still conditioned,
It's the conditioning is what the line is.
that's
You're
the finish.
air conditioning it, it's considered finished space, as far as I'm concerned, if it's habitable.
Dwayne, are there any other thoughts? Thank you, Betty. Are there other
Hit the mute for a second.
pieces of information?
Yeah, I would say in a unfinished basement area, because we do conditioned basements all the time, I think that area would still be considered unfinished as long as there's no sheetrock on the walls and it's just conditioned and insulated exterior walls. If I'm within the building, first floor, second floor, third floor, and I have a conditioned area and it is sheetrocked, I'm going to consider that to be finished square footage because it is finished. Even if it's not painted.
Right.
Okay. I would require the required number of outlet spacing according to the residential code and everything in that area. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Super. Thank you both. Thanks for the question, Eric. Eric, you're the question guy. What other questions do you have today?
Oh gosh. What are you guys doing this weekend?
Maybe something more fun than talking about residential permit applications. Just a wild guess.
Right. No, nothing's coming to my mind.
Super. Well, I see. Let me see. It looks like Morgan has a question and then Becky has a question following. So Morgan, your question, please.
Hey there. So we recently submitted for a permit application. It's a screen porch addition, so there will be no new bedrooms, no new bathrooms. And the question that we got asked was to submit the blanking on it right now, but the well and septic and the health department information. So we were just curious if that is standard just for any project to submit the health department information, even if we're not doing anything related to bedrooms or bathrooms.
I'll take a run at that one. I know that we routinely ask for that information because if you're building out over the drain field potentially, we want to know that ACSA has taken a look at this or the health department, and we have had situations where people have tried to build out over their drain field or over the water line, the ACSA. Well, it actually would be the homeowner's water line at that point, but that is the why we ask for it.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Becky.
Right. Assuming that all of your information is submitted correctly the first time, what's an appropriate amount of time that we should allow for the building permit to be turned around and issued back to us?
Becky, are you the ringer in this meeting today? That's a really good question. And we would love to be able to give you a straight answer on that. I'll tell you what we are shooting for, and we are way far off that mark, but that also gives me an opportunity to tell you about some other good news. what our fervent hope is, and we, like I said, are way far away from that. We are hoping when we are at our stated direction, we are hoping to be able to turn permits, assuming everything is correctly put in, within 2 weeks of receipt. That's once again assuming that everything is turned in and complete and accurate. Now, that said, all of you are aware that we have had incredible backlogs, both volume-driven backlogs and frankly, staffing challenge backlogs with our entire permit process. Last week, I believe it was, we brought on, thanks to the Board of Supervisors approving 2 new, contract funding for 2 new contractors. We were able to obtain the services of 2 retired certified plans reviewers, thanks to Michael Dellinger and his contacts throughout the Commonwealth. They have just started doing permit review for us. So last week they took 30 of our permits from our queue, the oldest ones, and Michael and Betty and Alicia are working with them to get permits through the gauntlet, if you will, and the backlog that we've been suffering. The Board of Supervisors did authorize enough funding for us to keep these guys on with us, we hope, long enough to, number 1, get the backlog cleared, and number 2, continue to work on and augment our processes. On this call today, you've also been introduced to Keith Bradshaw, whom you have known before as a co-compliance officer. Keith, we are using Keith as he's graciously agreed to do, to help us write some of the intake processes to get them back on track. So we've brought in him for his expertise since he started with CDD in that location. So we are taking advantage of some of our best resources and asking for his help. We have some great new people that we've hired, and we actually are in the middle of putting an offer out to a new intake specialist even as we speak. So, and we have gotten permission also last Wednesday from the board to hire another intake specialist. So we are ramping up our staffing to be able to significantly improve our through time. So Becky, I know I didn't give you a direct answer on that, but I'm hoping that you'll let me by with that answer because that's the best I got right now.
Thanks.
You bet. Morgan, did you have another question, or is your hand still up from before?
Sorry, it's still up.
Okay. So who else might have a question for us besides the Evergreen team? I'm so sorry you don't have a mic. You know, Evergreen team, you can put a question in the chat if you would like. All righty. Well, I really appreciate you all coming on this call. Before we close, I'm just wondering, are there things that you would like us to cover? Well, first off, number 1, did you find any of this helpful? Number 2, are there things you would like us to cover in another one of these kinds of tutorials? And any feedback you might have. So I'd like to kind of spend the next couple of minutes hearing your feedback on this so we can tune this up and get some more information out to you all and information that you can really use.
I'm gonna say something. I'll say something again.
Thanks, Eric.
No problem. First off, I think it's very helpful, and I applaud your entire team and staff at the Community Development Department for working with us as builders together to try to identify and collaboratively solve some of the inefficiencies. And let's see, gosh, I already forgot the next question. Future trainings. I think a code update training, which I know has been electronically sent out, but even a format like this might be helpful, not to address every single change in the updated code, but maybe to identify some of the things that Albemarle County and the inspectors will be focusing on that are newly added to the code. And we can talk about that in our home builder roundtable meetings, but that's one idea.
Thank you very much, Eric. Oh, thank you, Evergreen, for your comments. They did come through. Hang on a second. Oh, great. So Evergreen Home Builders is saying, thank you for doing this. I echo the request for updated code training and new inspections that are going to be implemented. Thank you very much. Nate, I don't know if that's you, but I appreciate it. Any other thoughts you all have? Okay, well, if there are no other thoughts from our guests and team, if you have no other thoughts to share at this time. Oh, it is Nate. Thanks, Nate. If you have no other thoughts at this time, I really appreciate you all making yourselves available on a Friday afternoon. I hope you have a great weekend and appreciate your time, and we'll do this again when we have our next fun topic to present. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Everybody have a good weekend.
Thank you very much.